This is Empire Sports Alliance, Unfiltered. No fluff, no filters, just the real side of sports. We're talking athletes, coaches, agents, doctors, executives, the people behind the scenes who actually move the needle. From building careers to surviving the grind to winning off the field. This is where real conversations collide.
Welcome to another episode of Empire Sports Alliance Unfiltered. I'm Ronnie. I'm the host. I'm the wealth guy here. Normally have another co-host, Eric, who is missing today. We're going to cover, his part as well. But today we get DeWayne Carter, defensive tackle with the Buffalo Bills. DeWayne, great to have you.
Glad to be here, man. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. So normally the way we do this is we kind of talk, it's really about you in terms of like your journey, right? We're trying to raise, a little bit more awareness for like, young athletes out there, that go through high school, college, as well as pros as well, right? So it's really about kind of the journey. What do you have experienced in terms of from a early age on going through your career into high school, college, and then obviously the pros, in experiencing the draft, NIL, all these things going on today, and obviously the business side of football as well. So if it's all right with you, maybe just walk us through. When did you get started? When was the first time you touched a football and, things that,
Yeah. So great question. So I guess I'll start kind of with my family pedigree a little bit, history. So on my dad's side, my dad played football at Ohio State, and then his father played football at Youngstown State, and he's actually in the Hall of Fame there. He did football and track, and he has, I think, 8 varsity letters. So he's a Hall of Famer there, which is pretty cool. Then my dad's 2 older brothers. My Uncle Raymond, he played running back in Notre Dame. And then my Uncle John played offensive line in Kentucky. And I forgot to mention, my dad's a receiver. So I don't know how I ended up the way I did.
Okay.
Right. So it's funny. I grew up playing soccer, baseball, basketball. Honestly, I was really playing anything but football because my dad didn't want me to play football at first because he wanted
Oh,
me
he
to.
didn't want you to initially?
No, he wanted me to wait until I was, I think, ninth or 10th grade is what he initially said, because he wanted me to develop, let me do other athletic things, because when
Yeah.
you're younger and, you reach a certain weight, you can't really play out of positions due to safety things. And I was always a bigger kid. So I
Yeah.
was automatically going to be an offensive and defensive lineman, which, that's what I am now anyway.
Yeah.
But when I was younger, he wanted me to play flag football, soccer, baseball, and develop that athleticism. And then we got to my 6th grade year. I had finally got him to crack, and my mom was like, listen, he's going to play football because he's not going to suck by the time he gets to high school. Like, school football starting really soon.
Yeah.
We're just going to do it. I mean, the rest is history. I mean, he was my coach then from that point on until we started school football. And then, as you can see, I'm here now.
Yeah, there you go. So let me ask you, because we had a few players on different sports, et cetera, and everybody's talk about the benefit in terms of like playing different sports, right? In terms of like maybe ending up with football, hockey, what it is. But, a lot of those folks, they play different sports. Do you feel like you benefited? And obviously it seems like your dad kind of had that plan as well. Do you feel like you benefited greatly in terms of now playing D-tackle, having played soccer and all that stuff?
Oh, yeah, 100%. It's no doubt, man. And actually, funny enough, I was supposed to play both football and baseball at Duke. But my freshman year was the COVID pandemic. So I had to make a decision with one, and I chose this, the sport with the scholarship money. I think I made a pretty decent choice in that, but
Okay.
I've always been a firm believer in kids should play as many sports as possible and, just
Yeah.
actually play, learn the game, learn their bodies, learn how to run, how to move, and also just learn the value of teamwork, friendship, even working with
Yeah.
people you don't like. A lot of things we struggle with nowadays.
It certainly seems like it. But let me ask you from a baseball perspective. You play at what, 300 plus pounds now as a D tackle, right?
Yes.
How heavy were you at when you were in college?
So I always start off at like 290, 295.
390. Yeah.
And then when I was done, I was 305, I think. My last year, I was 305.
So, besides, obviously an expert in stealing bases in baseball with,
Yep.
your athleticism, what position did you play in baseball?
Yeah, so I grew up a catcher until,
Okay.
what was it? 6th grade? No, 7th grade was my last year catching. I broke my leg, actually, randomly in a summer game.
Okay.
So I kind of took a year off from that, and then that's when I transitioned to more of that DH, first base role. And then I got to
Okay.
high school. I started catching again for the JV team my freshman year. And then when I got on varsity, it was just first base and DH.
Okay. So when you play catcher, though, this was a real catcher like back in the day in terms of like signs and all that stuff, like the old school way of playing catcher, right?
Oh, yeah. No, like all the guys nowadays are fancy on one
Yeah, yeah,
lead,
yeah.
knee, stretch out, doing all different.
Yeah.
No, I'm straight up in the squat, had the glove ready to go.
All right. Well, good. So And then, okay, so now you know what you want to do. So how old are you now in terms of like decide, okay, football, that's going to be the career. I got to focus on this. Again, you
Yeah.
mentioned at Duke, you were going to play baseball as well. But when was it like, okay, I'm going to be solely football?
Yeah, so that decision wasn't made until my freshman year, and going into my senior year of high school, I remember having a good senior year of football, and then my senior year of baseball actually hit 475. It was like my best year statistically.
Yeah.
I felt like I was the most complete player, and it wasn't all, contrary to popular belief, it wasn't just home runs every time. I was more of a gap to gap guy, stretching out doubles, doing
Yeah.
different things. You may joke about stealing bases, but it's funny because a lot of pitchers wouldn't even hold me on. I
I knew we
would
were
be
coming back to that. You caught that. Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
Good.
yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot of pitchers wouldn't even hold me on first, so I'd able to swipe a couple bases back in my day, man, and we get my freshman year on my redshirted for football,
Yeah.
and then so I in turn I redshirted for baseball as well, and at the time, Duke is very good. Like, they're going to all the regionals, super regionals. Coach Pollard and his team, who actually
Yeah.
just went to UVA for the first year they were there, which is, the in-conference rivalry switch, which that was
Right
wild,
on.
but they gave me a shot, and we come back. Duke was I think we're the last school in Power 5 to come back not even post-pandemic, just within that 2020 COVID era. So we got back to school July 12th. I think we started camp like 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
So it was like almost like, I'm behind developmentally and football-wise and college football-wise where I should be at as a second-year player. And also, it's just so much going on in the world. So it's like you just had to make a decision, right? What's best long term
Yeah.
instead of being half in here and then half in there, trying to become good at this, but I can't really maximize my potential at that. So that's why I made that decision.
Would you agree at one point you do have to like obviously as beneficial as it is to play these different sports, but at one point you do have to kind of at that level focus on like one sport just because again you're playing Division 1 football, so yeah, not everybody's Deion Sanders, right? So
Yeah, no, 100%, right? It's even more rare these days, which I think is kind of wild. But at the end of the day, I always say go where the money is. When I say the money, I'm not talking NIL now. I have to
yeah,
specify because kids are getting six figures nowadays. But I mean, as far as like scholarship, my main goal to play sports and obviously outside of having fun and, being athletic and things like that was to get to college for free. So my parents had to pay. That was the main reason I wanted to play sports and go. And, the blessing it was to go to Duke for free, come out debt free and graduate with a degree from a university like that. I mean, that's second to none, man.
that's a
And that
lot of
was
value right there. Yeah, that's
100%. So
tremendous.
that's what I tell the kids I talk to and I mentor. I'm like, your first goal before anything, yes, you can have aspirations and dreams to be a professional in whatever sport you want to do or whatever you want to do, yes. But your first goal is you got to get to college, dude. Like you can't skip that step. And, nowadays
Right.
everybody transfer portal, they're bouncing around. Not a lot of kids are graduating. And I always have this conversation with a couple of my people. I'm like, it's going to be really interesting in these next 4 or 5 years when you see like how many kids that, played Power 4 football or played football at the next level, but actually don't have a diploma, don't have a degree, and really don't have anything to show for it. Hopefully,
Yeah.
they made a couple six-figure deals, but I don't at the end of the day, it's the education piece that matters to me.
So even somebody like yourself that was a high draft pick, right, the third round, you would say to kids today in terms of like, hey, what's really important is first and foremost the educational piece, huh?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%, 'cause that's how you get there in the first place. Like, you
Right.
don't you don't even get the opportunity to play in school unless you have the grades, you have the character, of the
Yeah.
integrity piece of it all. So when you get to the level that you worked so hard your whole life to get to, why do you forget that piece? I think that's the thing for me, and obviously every case is different. A lot of people have different things going on in their life, but the core is, that quote unquote student athlete title that I don't
Yeah.
know how much longer it'll be here, but the student athlete title, because at the end of the day, you do go to school and you have the opportunity to get a degree.
So from that perspective, talking about, being recruited out of high school, going to Duke, right? In terms of like how is that? Can you walk us through that recruiting process? Again, you just mentioned obviously you have to have the grades from an educational perspective, right? But then also again, you're playing high school, like in terms of like how much different is it being recruited from high school to college versus college to then the NFL? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so first I got to preface because I know it's probably night and day different nowadays because there's a lot more money involved
Yeah.
when you're 15, 16 years old. But for me, I was blessed enough. So I graduated from Pickering High School Central. And we had a lot of guys when I was younger that were coming out, going to, Kentucky, Michigan State, all these different SEC schools. We had head coaches in our school year round during the recruiting periods. So me being a younger guy, but also contributor on the varsity team, my head coach and the whole staff really did a whole really good job. putting me in front of coaches, right? Hey, this is our young guy. He's kind of next up. This is his tape. This is what he looks like. These are his grades, the type of guy he is. And from, I think so I received my first offer to play college football in my freshman year. I had the opportunity to go to
Freshman year of
University.
high school, right?
Yes. So
Yeah.
I got the opportunity to go to University of Kentucky. That was my first one. And then I am the starting job in my high school my sophomore year as a defensive tackle. My freshman year, they had me playing like D tackle a little bit, but I mainly was playing, I was like a blocking tight end slash fullback my freshman year on the varsity
Oh,
team.
so you started out on the offensive side of the ball. You were a blocking tight end and
Yeah,
fullback?
so, it's one of those things like get in where you fit in, right? Where do
Yeah,
we have a need? And
sure.
I played JV as well, but so when I did hit my varsity snaps, I was just leading up for the running back or I'm in a pass pro. I didn't have any routes. I didn't have any catches my freshman year. So that's kind of how I earned my role. And then my sophomore year going into it, I was like, all right, this is my year. I'm gonna earn my spot at D line where I want to be. And so that's what I ended up doing. Had a pretty solid year. We go all the way to we lost in the Final Four my sophomore year. Like I said, on a very talented team, a lot of guys going to college, and then I blew up. That I think maybe one or two offers in the fall, but my sophomore year when those recruiting periods opened up,
Yeah,
I mean, I was getting 2, 3 offers a day, and it was honestly very excited, very humbled, but also it's almost overwhelming. Like your kid is
yeah.
like you've worked hard your whole life, and now it's becoming a reality. You got coaches calling you. That's when you in the recruiting space trying to figure out who's real, who's lying, what offers are committable, what schools actually want you or they offer you just because it's the trend right now because you're one of the hottest recruits, quote unquote. So I mean, it's funny when I look back on the journey that's now, shoot, that was 2016 or 17, so almost
Yeah.
10 years ago, and look to where I am now. But I mean, it's all a blessing, man, when I look back on it.
So from a recruiting perspective, then that some of it is just like, hey, he's a hot name right now. Let's throw out some money again as an SEC school, or let's throw out an offer, so to speak, versus actually having a need and wanting you to play there. So do you feel that it just, or is that an interviewing process, just like you kind of have it going into the NFL draft, or how does that work?
Yeah, I learned a lot as a kid, right? A high schooler.
Yeah.
And like I said, obviously it's probably a lot different now because there
Yeah.
is legit money involved.
And from high school to college, which I think, to your point, that's what people don't realize. Like, right, I'm in Southern California. You have a bunch of great high schools here too. So nowadays, again, you're what, 16 years old, and you're getting offers that have
Exactly.
a dollar amount assigned to it.
Exactly. And it's funny because I was just back in my high school this past weekend and kind of get an idea from coaches on how, what recruiting looks like, who our prospects are, whatever, just trying to get an idea. A lot of times, like, it's not just a scholarship offer anymore. It's scholarship offer, and then you go on your business like, hey, I think your first year will pay you $80,000 or something, whatever the number may be. And that's unfathomable. As a high school kid, like, I don't know about you, but like I didn't have any money. Like I was scraping together some things, like asked my dad for gas money, lunch money,
Yeah.
like trying to figure out what to get on. And now these kids are, they got their chains, their designer clothes, and they're able to fund these things themselves, which I think is, it's a pretty great thing, especially if you can help your family and everything, but also it can be toxic to a certain point.
I think I could imagine it's very difficult, right? At such a young age, all of a sudden, obviously it's overwhelming enough to get, oh, wow, you get these offers from these big time colleges, like in your case, like some of these SEC schools. In addition to that, you get a lot of money thrown at you. I could imagine not just from, I mean, it's just the surroundings and everything that could probably be overwhelming, I would think.
100%. 100%. That's why even talking to some of the high school kids that I still talk to and the families that I know that their kids are now in high school, and just from the whole perspective of recruiting, right? It's not the same because the transfer portal, so I mean, it's huge. It's saturated with a whole bunch of guys that have played college already for 2, 3, and sometimes 4 years, maybe even longer. And now schools have the opportunity. Well, shoot, instead of going and getting Johnny, the 17, 18-year-old kid that we can develop and hopefully he's good for us in 2, 3 years down the line. We can go get Bob, who's been in college for 3 years. He's
Yeah.
played 500 career snaps. Like you can, it's that win now mentality instead of the development mentality. So obviously, I know colleges are still, recruiting high school, but it's just not the same.
So you're saying the transfer portal in college has a big impact in terms of how the recruiting with high schools worked
Oh,
or works?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Because, well, I mean, if you just kind of look at the climate too of sports nowadays, it's like kind of win now or you're out. So at least me, if I know in my brain as a head coach in college, I'm like, well, I have a chance to go get a 22, 23-year-old guy. He's played 3 years, pretty talented, proven at this level, or I can go same position, 17 year 17-year-old, 18-year-old kid, he probably will be good, but I'm gonna need
Mhm.
2, 3 years before he's ready to play. Like, who are you picking, right? And that's the really the crazy thing. You see all these contracts that kids are signing, and it's these one-year deals to literally just free agency, and it's honestly it's
Yeah.
very interesting to see.
What is, as far as you can, what is your personal opinion about the transfer portal today and how NIL works?
You know, I'm all for it. I'm a huge advocate for athletes being able to be paid.
Yeah.
I'm always for it, right? My thing is I get mad when kids abuse the education piece of it. Like, I understand it's, "Oh, you gotta get highest dollar," or, "If I get this amount of money, this help my family, or this will really help me." Yes, I understand that all well and good, and we should be able to do that, especially how much money you make as
Yeah.
a college football player for the NCAA, your institutions, etcetera. But at the same time, you can't forget what we touched on earlier was the main goal in the first place. You're getting the college for free to have an
Yeah.
education for free. And I think not a lot of people realize too that, the next level is not promised. Anything can happen, knock on wood, God forbid, injuries
Right.
or big time injuries, but anything can happen.
But 100%. I mean, it's still the 1% out of the 1% to actually make it to the pros, right?
Yes.
I mean, you could be super good in high school, even in college. If you see some of the guys that went undrafted, in the last draft, I mean, it's like it's brutal business reality. It's not just your ability, what you could do on the football field, right? So, but
100%.
s- so now you're in college now. You're playing at Duke, and first season, how did that go? How was the transition from high school into college?
Yeah. So
You
my
played
first
Alabama the first year, didn't you?
we said we played it. Yeah. So that was my first game ever in college. Which
So,
was
oh, okay. Go ahead, please.
It's hilarious. So 2019, we played Alabama at its peak. So obviously go through camp. First game, I dressed. I get a little bit of time, but we're playing against the Alabama team. That team had Tua was the quarterback.
Okay.
They had all the receivers: Judy, Waddle, Ruggs, Smith, Najee Harris was there playing running back. Still, the O line I think is still all in the NFL. D
Yeah.
line, I'm pretty sure most of them are still playing. Their secondary is still playing.
Who
Like
did
every
you line up against on the O-line? Who was the
So
O-line
I
guy that you
played
went up
my
against?
first college snap was against Landon Dickerson at a guard for
Oh,
the Eagles. Yeah, so
okay.
it's funny, right? When you look back like all these years ago, so me being a young kid at that time, he was older. I think it was his junior or senior year. But that was my first snap in college, right? So seeing that team and seeing, right, what is, the saying is like everybody says there's levels to this, right?
Yeah,
And there really is. And we came out, like we held our own in the first quarter. We were our first half, excuse me, it was 14-3. And then we couldn't score. We couldn't move the ball.
yeah.
So after that, it kind of took over. We ended up losing, but that was kind of my taste of college football to start off. And then we ended up going, what did we go? We went 5-7 that year. We went
Mhm.
5-7, rough year, and then ended up going home for winter break. Come back as soon as we start winter workouts. That's when the pandemic happened, and I was right back at home, which is crazy to think about.
Who was your quarterback again? Was it Dan Jones?
I miss Daniel Jones. I missed Daniel by a
Oh, okay.
year, so I didn't get to
Okay.
play with Daniel. My first year, we had Quentin Harris, my guy
Yep.
Q. Quentin Harris was playing, and then we had Chase Bryce, our COVID year. He had transferred from Clemson to Duke. And then who finished? And then we had a guy named Gunnar Holmberg, and then my
Mhm.
last quarterback was Riley Leonard.
Okay.
He's at the Colts right now. Yeah, so
Yes. Yes.
Riley was a big part of us in that core who kinda turned that program around and made us a national
Yeah.
story.
Okay. And who were your mates on the defensive line at that point? Did you guys play 4-3, 3-4, or was it a
So
mix?
we were a 4-3 team,
Yeah.
4-3 team, and we had a really talented group. My freshman year, we had I'm trying to think, no, my sophomore year. Yeah, 2020, my sophomore year, our whole D line played in the league at one point, except for I think 1 or 2 of them, and we ended up winning 2 total games. So our whole D line played in the league. We have a couple guys in our secondary that still playing it NFL to this day. We have one of our last starting linebackers played in the NFL. So we had an NFL defense on paper, and then we ended up only winning 2 games, it's crazy. We talk about it all the time, like as a whole group, that doesn't make any sense.
How did that happen? I mean, again, you get a feeling in terms of from a talent level, obviously, and at that point, you have been around the program for a little bit. What happens? What is it?
I mean, you could say many different things, and honestly, I think COVID took a big toll on our program
Yeah.
as a whole, especially the way working with the university, and it was kind of like separate, right? It was like Duke football and Duke University, and it was really hard to navigate that because obviously the time it was high stakes. A lot of people lost a lot of lives. This is something we haven't seen. Like, there's a lot of things going on. And I just remember that 2020 year, it was like, all right, are we going to play? Are we not going to play? Are we going to play? Are we not going to play? Then we decided to play. So it was like, it was a big mess, man. And honestly, just led to we lost our coach the year after,
Yeah.
and so after that they cleared house, and that was my junior year, and so I had a decision to make because that was right around the time NIL was forming, transfer portal was becoming more
Hmm.
relevant, and being a guy who had decent amount of success so far, I was starting to get some calls and some offers and some inquiries like, "Hey, where are you leaning? Are you think you're going to leave? What are you going to do?" And at the end of the day, I know I want to graduate, and both my parents as well were like, you shouldn't leave that school without your degree, which I wholeheartedly agree. And I think staying there my whole career was the best thing I ever did.
Did you again? You saying your parents? Did you work with an agent during that time?
No, I didn't work with an agent until it was time for the NFL. It was
Okay.
all just in-house family stuff. And
Yeah.
honestly, there was no need at the time because there wasn't any really money being like
You were just right before that really started, like a couple of years past you being drafted. That it would have today it would probably be a different story, right? If you're in your junior year,
100%, 100%. So, in the legislation for NIL being able to be a thing was
yeah.
2021, and then the idea of the collectives and the schools paying just full salaries to players was around my last year was 2023. Like, there were some schools that were doing it, but then that following year, that's when kinda it really blew up, at least in my opinion, and where I saw from where I was at. Because I think the highest guy on our team, we had 4 or 5 draft picks that year. I think the highest guy made $50,000, which, as a college
Oh,
kid is
well.
great, or I think it was
Yeah, yeah.
48.
Still,
Hey,
but if you compare it to today, I mean,
but yeah, and these are like, mind you, it's guys like myself. We had a first round draft pick in that class. We had a fifth round draft. We had like all these guys that are still playing and contributing to their teams. And nowadays, if you're talking that language, I'm making north of probably $700,000, $800,000
yeah.
just to play in college.
I mean, at this point, you're junior, you get an idea in terms of like you're doing well. You're on the radar for NFL teams that there's a good chance you're going to be drafted, right?
Yes, and it's funny. I always tell people because people ask me like, "Oh, was it always your goal, like, to end up in the NFL?" And honestly, like, I always be like, "Oh, this would be really cool if I could get there." Right, coming in, I'm like, "This would be
Yeah.
cool. This would be great." Obviously, it's the NFL, 1% of the 1%, like you said, this maybe could be a thing for me. And after my redshirt sophomore year, yeah, that's right, redshirt sophomore year, I was like, okay, I can do this. Like I had a year, it was becoming easy to me. I was able to make plays. I'm seeing the game like, well, it just something clicked where I was like, I can do this, and it's gonna take it to that next step.
Wait,
And then when we get
when you say,
go
sorry
ahead.
to not to interrupt, but when you say you see in the game at the defensive tackle position, are you just, talking pre-snap in terms of like what's coming in terms of the adjustment the O-line makes from a blocking scheme? You're just starting to understand more so because of all the snaps you
Yeah.
had, or how does that work?
Well, 100%. I think it'd be a mix of film study, it could be a mix of reps, or it's
Yeah.
just I don't know, it's just something just clicks. Like I guess you call it almost like a flow state. When people
Yeah.
reference they're in the flow state, just rolling wherever it is. And I think that's when I started to figure it out. Like out there on that field, it became natural. It was just second nature to me to go out there. I'm seeing blocks really well. I'm able to see schemes. I'm able to see plays before they come and before they happen. And just the game is really starting. I'm really starting to understand the game in its entirety, and the year after that is really when I exploded. And honestly, I probably could have left that year and went either the same or higher in the draft. But I decided to stay another year because I ended up hurting my shoulder.
Uh-huh.
And here we are now.
So just want to, follow up on that in terms of, obviously, you guys are pretty big guys. You're the biggest guy on the field, right? So
Yeah.
in terms of you guys, offensive and defensive line, right? And you're right in the middle of this. How important is it, again, talking from experience in terms of like the film studying, right? And then the technique in itself, because they're all big guys, right? There's at one point, you're not going to overpower somebody just simply by, maybe you're stronger, that's great, but, how important is the technique for that? Again, especially for big guys like you.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%, man. So it's like, it's always the saying, right? Everybody's good at this level. You don't get here on accident. Like everybody
Right.
is good, everybody's elite. So what you said, the small things, the film study, the extra body work you get, your fundamentals, your technique being fundamentally sound. And that's something I pride myself on, right? Being a technician. Because at the end of the day, what separates you is the extra work and the little things that you do better than anybody else. And
Mhm.
me going through, especially coming off this injury that I had last year, I think it puts an even more, I'm going to put even more importance on that, right? Because it's just
Yeah.
rebuilding that foundation and getting back into where I was and then, continue to climb and ascend to where I want to go. So
That
that's a
was an
really,
Achilles, right? Your
yeah, yep,
injury?
yep, toward my Achilles.
So you now again, you're gonna get it before the drafting at process kind of like, so in your last year in college, can you walk us through a little bit in terms of like, combine and then, getting drafted, the interviewing process? The reason I'm asking is, we had several folks on and, one person mentioned, hey, I had to do a rap. I had to come up with a rap and then perform it. I'm like, how crazy is this shit? Like, have you seen some crazy nuts job stuff? Like, or,
So I personally, I didn't have to do a rap, but I have heard a lot of wild things along those lines. And I think too, going to Duke, I get cut a little bit more slack on a lot of the mind games and the mental
oh, okay.
questions because I heard all the time like, "Oh, you're smart. You went to Duke. You understand."
From the
Before they even
academic level,
confirm
kind
that
of
I
the way.
understand. So, it's
Uh-huh.
a blessing and a curse because, if I didn't
Sure.
actually understand, like, well, I'm gonna at least act like I do. So we can continue with the label, right? But
Right.
it was pretty cool, man. It's unique. I mean, we had anywhere from Zoom meetings, in-person lunches, to dinners, to flying out to see the facility, being around the different players, the teams, and then starting off with my draft process. I went out and I trained in where was that? I was in it's next to Calabasas. I can't even remember, but I
Malibu?
was out.
LA?
It was close to Malibu. Why
Ventura?
can't I remember the name? It was in that area was where I was
Yeah.
training.
Understood.
Correct.
Nice.
Practice sports performance. Shout out my people over there. Love them. And then from there, I had the Reese Senior Bowl, and that's where I got my first taste of the mind games and the interview piece and kind of the mental part of the interview and what the NFL was. So I
What
mean, it
they
was
do,
pretty
what
cool.
they say.
So it is pretty cool. So for the Senior Bowl, you show up, and we were the morning team. I was on the morning practice team. So we wake up, practice in the morning, we come back, had a little recovery period. We had lunch, and then we had like all these different seminars and meetings. And then we always finish with interviews. And the way they did their interviews, it was like I guess you call it like speed dating. There was a big clock, and all 32 teams were in there. I mean, it could be you could see GMs, you could see head coaches, you could see
Uh-huh.
support tech, you could see scouts, you could see their sports psychologists, you could see literally anybody want to bring they have. And you had probably like 5 to 10 minutes at each place. And it was kind of like the mental piece was one, you're just going from curtain to curtain, so you can't see who's actually in there. And two, you have no idea what you're actually going to be asked. Because, for instance, say I'm at the Bills, right? And the Bills has my
Yeah.
film up. They want to talk about different plays. And I go next to the Dolphins, and they have something where they want me to play a mind game. And we're doing like a brain test. Or I'm doing a psyche eval, or like it's just you can do so many different things. And it's literally like you can draw a number out of a hat. And that's what it was like. It was
What was the what's the craziest thing that you got asked or where you're like, "What?"
honestly, for me, like, I didn't really get asked any crazy questions,
Yeah.
but there was sometimes, like, where they'll have their team security, and this
Yeah.
happened with a couple different teams, and they'll kinda just ask you about, a made up scenario, being like, "Oh, I heard you were out at this club in this city on this date, and I heard you had an open case against you for whatever." Like, just make up something crazy to see how
Yeah.
you react, and it's like, especially you're sitting there like, "Alright, well, I don't think I did this. Wait, I know I didn't do this." Like, why
You're like,
like,
"I'm not a club guy. I go to festivals. That can't
and
be me."
it's just funny, like, you're just really thinking like, "Alright, let's just get you to think," right? And, like I said, it's almost like a psyche eval at the end of the day,
Yeah.
but honestly, I enjoyed it. It was a lot. It's something I never
Yeah.
wanna go through again, but I really enjoyed the process because I enjoyed being there because, like I said, I got the job of my dreams.
So, oh, yeah, no question. But so now again, draft day, right? What did you were at home, you had a group of people around you, family and stuff?
Yeah, yep, so, we kept it intimate in my house, so it
Yeah.
was me, my fiancé at the time, now wife, mom, dad, couple of my cousins, and, my agent was there as well.
Yep.
Kinda so we knew day 1, we knew I wasn't gonna go day 1, so I was slotted to go day 2, and I actually didn't end up getting picked until, like, I think 11:45 at night,
Oh.
and I was picked 95, so
Yeah,
as you can
95,
imagine.
right? That's Friday. That was always there, right?
Yeah,
First
yep,
round Thursday and then second, third on Friday. Okay.
yep, so I waited
Mhm.
all day sitting around, and honestly, I got to the point where I was like, I don't think it's gonna happen today," like, because a lot of the
It's
teams that
exhausting, no?
it was the whole 3, 4 months or however long it was very exhausting,
Yeah.
and then you gotta have an idea, you're like, "Oh, I think this team likes me, they might take me here," and they take somebody else, and, you gotta understand that, 1, it's not even about just you, it's about need or want, what
Yeah.
makes sense to them as a
Yeah.
clubs. I mean, it was really interesting. Like I said, like, I love the draft process, and it's something I never wanna do again. I
Sure.
thoroughly enjoyed it.
You enjoyed it. But so did you think it's gonna be the Bills that pick you? Did you have a good I in? sense, or
So
you thought it was going to be somebody else?
I thought they were definitely in the mix. I thought it was after all the interviews and talking to my agents and, kind of intel they had. I knew the Bills liked me. I knew the Bengals liked me. I knew the Eagles, the Rams, and one or two other clubs. I can't remember. So that was kind of like, all right, if we look for these teams, like, I think this is going to take you now between this pick to this pick and in this window at this time. Like, it was that specific. And it ended up being towards the back half of the range when the Bills took me at 95.
All right, good. And then, so what's life look like in Buffalo now? So now that, now you're drafted, you transition into like the NFL. How's that?
Yeah, so luckily I got my wife up here with me.
Yeah.
So my transition was a lot easier as far as like, getting home together, getting house stuff together and, getting all my affairs in order on top of being a full-time football player now. But we love it up here. It's a blessing. A very
Yeah.
tight-knit community, a very
Yeah.
tight-knit team, a very supportive team. I mean, everybody knows the Mafia, craziest people ever in sports, but the most awesome fan base. And they take care of you, man. Like when you go out to eat, you always see people, they're always so nice. And even, whether they know you're a Buffalo Bill or not, it's just kind of the standard around here because Buffalo's called the city of good neighbors for a reason. And I think it just held true for the last, 2 going on 3 years that I've been here.
I told you I'm a Jets fan, right?
You
So,
did tell me that. You did tell
and
me
you
that.
still came on. I appreciate that. Well, for now, you guys have the upper hand and stuff. But so no,
Yeah,
again,
I
obviously
gotta.
talking about the what's that? What were
I
you
said,
saying?
I gotta look past the flaws. I'm able to look past flaws.
Are you saying nobody's perfect, right? Yeah, I hear you.
Of course.
But so now again, you get to a locker room, you got some big time names. Obviously, you started with your quarterback there. How's that? How's it to be how's Allen? How's Josh Allen in the locker room?
Josh is a great dude, man. He's as advertised. Obviously, everybody knows he's an elite ball player, but a great guy, great teammate, and then very selfless, especially when it comes to this team. Like, that dude lays his body on the line every week, just like our whole squad, because of, I truly believe, like, we have success because we truly care for one another, right? We're
Uh,
true friends. We're true teammates. It's not just, X's and O's on a board. We truly go out there and play for one another and have fun doing it. And I think it shows on the field when you watch our
I would
games.
agree. Yeah, yeah. It's not been that easy for me to watch my team just yet, but we're getting there.
You're
But
getting it for sure.
I can sense the sarcasm. Good stuff. Tell us a little bit about the experience then. So when you started playing, what are some of the toughest O-line guys that you went up against, in your opinion? And then, just based on your experience and, what was tough about them?
Yeah, so I remember my rookie year initially played a little bit in the first game, and that was against the Cardinals, which they were pretty good. They just had a rough year that year.
Yeah.
And then what was it, week two? Week two, we went to Miami, beat them up pretty good. And then week three, we went to Baltimore. That's what it was. I was trying to get my weeks right. So 2024, week three, that was like kind of like our biggest test at that point that season. And they beat us pretty good. But up front, they were solid, man. They had a lot of good ball players. Obviously, Lamar Jackson is, one of one from the way he
Yeah.
plays the game. And they had Derrick Henry back there. And I mean, it's just, they had a bunch of freaks on paper and they're as advertised. So, and that was my first real test mentally for me, just being a rookie and having, I guess a higher workload on my shoulders that game. That was like my first like real workload game. And
Mhm.
two, being able to compete and proving to myself like, hey, you can have success at this level. You're good enough. And I ended up, having pretty decent game. Like I said, we got our butts kicked. So it kind of gets swept under the rug a little bit. But
Yeah.
that was like not saying it was a catalyst for the way I played the rest of that year.
Is there any particular tough stadium to play at? They would say, hey, that's definitely, I mean, obviously your home stadium, but that's
Yeah.
not tough for you. It's tough for the opponent. But, any particular stadiums you go to is like, those people are mean or they're loud or,
It's not even just me. It's just like the atmosphere. I love it. Like, right, the chippiness, the trash talk, the crazy name calling. Like, that's what makes the sport fun, right? Because at the end of the day, it's sport. Like, there
yeah,
is certain situations where people take it personal, and that's a problem. But real ball where you're just getting yelled at, screamed at, "You suck, get out of here!" Like, I love that, right? And I think we went to Arrowhead out in Kansas City. That was unreal.
yeah,
Baltimore was like that, and we played there. That was a Monday night game. That game was unreal. We went to Detroit. Detroit was electric. It was electric. We played there. Oh, excuse me. And Houston, we played in Houston. It wasn't very loud, but I was a big fan of their stadium. Like their fan base, like it was, they were loud at times, but I
yeah.
just loved it.
Like I say, a favorite stadium outside of obviously, Buffalo, you're getting a new one.
Like you said, New Highmark, man. New Highmark Stadium is unreal. So that's gonna be fun
Yeah.
to play in. But I think, like I said, man, I like the loud environments. I really like playing in Detroit. We played in Baltimore. That was awesome. And then Arrowhead was that was crazy playing out there.
I
Like,
as a fan, I went to Arrowhead, and a good friend that's a big Chiefs fan. But I think the Jets Chiefs several years ago, we got absolutely. I mean, one of the worst games I've seen. I think we had 7 turnovers, 2 pick sixes, a fumble return for a touchdown. And, leaving that stadium, I mean, the nicest people. I thought they were messing with me, right? It's like, you're
that's
some
funny.
dark sarcasm. You would never experience that in New York, but the
That is
nicest people from a fan, perspective. If you ever want to get your ass kicked as an opponent fan, go to Arrowhead. They're super
a
nice.
lot of
So
people know.
talking about, being nice, you're in the trenches. So you just kind of mentioned it, the chirping and all that stuff. You a trash talker?
Honestly, no, unless somebody says anything to me.
Everybody
Like,
always says that. If you
that's
say
what it is.
something
Like,
first,
you don't want to start it. Bigger guys out there
yeah,
exerting a lot of energy, a lot of exhaustion. You got to conserve all your air and wind as much as you can. So when you get to the point where it's trash talking and you're like mid play trying to get the play from the coach, your
yeah,
linebacker, you're breathing all hard, then you're like, all right, is
yeah.
it even worth it? Saying something back. So it's
So
rare. It's rare. It's rare for me unless I'm
So
provoked.
you kind of have to pick and choose your battles a little bit in terms of like talking crap and stuff, right?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Okay. So you're mentioning in terms of like obviously, you're huffing and puffing out there. It's like the highest level there is. Can you talk a little bit about the preparation from like a nutritional from a health perspective going into a season? Again, I mean, people just they tune in. Some of them don't even watch the preseason, but they tune in. The season starts. But for you, the season has already started. Weeks ago, I'm sure, from a preparation perspective.
100%, right? And, everybody always says the best way to stay in shape is to never get out of shape. So off seasons are interesting, right? You want to take your breaks and, relax and take care of your body and just kind of hang out. But also in the back of your mind, you're always thinking like, well, shoot, if I relax too much, I'm going to have to do that much more, right? To get back to where I need to be. So the way I approach it, honestly, I take my break, take about a week or two off, but I'm always doing some type of workout, whether it's, cardio or weights or whatever
Yeah.
else. And then by the time we get back into spring ball, you want to be in condition already, in my opinion, be ready to go because then that's where you build your foundation for the season. And there is like a little acclimation period, of course, but you want to be ready to go. And plus, it's a good look. You come in, you look like you have, take care of your body, look focused. You look like you have worked on your goals that you decide on with your nutritionist or strength coach, whoever it is, and that you are ready to go. So for me, like from a nutrition standpoint, I think I took a big step this past year. Before I got hurt, I felt like I was really peak shape was ready to go, really like where I was at. And so, this year I took a lot of those same steps, whether it's just eating cleaner and being consistent, right? I'm the boring like ground beef, rice, broccoli,
Yeah.
uh, some type of fish, maybe some ground turkey, like eating those consistently and then, trying to cut out the snacks, man. It's hard. It's hard, but
Yeah,
setting up
yeah. I'm sure it is. But I
hard.
mean, how many meals do you have a day normally? Like, again, you have to support a certain playing weight, right? So,
Yeah.
and then obviously you have to still be fit too. So, how many meals a day is that?
Yeah, so honestly, for me, it probably should
Yeah,
be more. I probably eat 2.5 because breakfast, I just eat what I need in the morning to get ready to go to work and work out. But
yeah.
I have big lunches and very big dinners. I think that's really just what it comes down to. Like there's some nights where I'll sit down and I'll probably eat a whole pound of ground beef and rice
All right. But
myself.
again, you keep it simple, right? It's nothing too fancy, but it's just kind of like same thing in bodybuilding, kind of in terms of obviously you got your macros and all that stuff. And I'm sure you have like trainers and that go over that with you, right? Is that,
Yeah, yeah, we have
individualized nutrition?
yep, full-time nutritionist and Christine, shout out. She's one of my favorite in the building. She's awesome. Does a great
All right.
job at, tailoring our plan to us, a specific plan to us and, what we need to eat and working hand in hand with our strength coach. And that's why I give a lot of kudos to our building because
Yeah.
every department works together. So we're all on the same page about, what I need or what he needs and just how to, maximize our true athleticism and our potential to get where we want to go.
Yeah. And in terms of from a workout perspective, how many workouts do you guys do off season versus like in season? Like as
Yeah,
you're,
so the way the NFL works, off-season wise, this is like pre-camp before all that,
yeah.
is you have your phases. Phase 1 is really just working out with your strength staff. So you got your
Okay.
lifts and your runs, and then I think we're allowed to have like a meeting for like an hour with coaches. Just kind of like, introducing the scheme for that year or whatever it may be. And then phase 2, you jump up a little bit where, we still have our lifts, our workouts, meetings get a little bit longer. We're allowed on the field for field time where we're working on our individual skills and, drills tailored specifically to our position. And then phase three, which we're currently in now, is where you see all the practice clips, right? That's where we get a little bit of 11 on 11 action. We're going against our offense, testing our scheme, seeing what it looks like, and trying to, get a feel for the defense and what we're going to look like that year. So, I
Uh-huh.
mean, it's a pretty good system they got. And then we'll go up until mandatory minicamp, which is, oh my gosh, actually next week, which is crazy thinking about it. So, a week from today, we start mandatory minicamp. And that's when,
Yeah.
the little bit of the restrictions pull back a little bit and we can go a little bit longer, a little bit harder.
Right on. Okay. So, who's DeWayne Carter outside football, off the field? I know you've started some modeling. I saw it on Instagram and stuff. So, what,
Yeah.
what,
Yeah. Yeah.
what are you up to? What else do you do for fun or
And
business?
the way I describe it, me, I'm just, I call it everybody in the building, a lot of my friends, they just say I do a whole bunch of side quests, right? I'm always
Yeah.
interested in learning. I'm always interested in doing new things. I'm always down to try new things, go new places. I like to cook, man. I like to give back to the community. For example, like I said, I had my second annual youth camp this past weekend. That was awesome. But we got here in a couple weeks, one of my teammates is throwing a barbecue competition here in Buffalo. So I'm gonna be one of the judges for that. I mean, it's funny, man. Like you said, you mentioned modeling. One of my suit guys up here in Buffalo, they had a little
Yeah.
photo shoot, asked me to come out, put on a suit, strut around a little bit, take some pictures. Why not? So right for me, I'm always down to, for something new. And, I think the first time we talked, I kind of described it like, man, I just always love to learn too. I'm always open to
Yeah.
learn new things. And I have the education background and it's part of my degree. So it's who I am, man. It's awesome.
So, what about the kind of the business aspect of the game? Obviously, I watch football. I'm a big fan, whatnot, right? But for me, it's more fun. It's entertainment. For you, that's your career. Again, and, can you talk a little bit in terms of like, again, business aspect of things, uh, you know, I work with athletes from a wealth perspective. So what do you see? What is it like that you experience from a business aspect of playing the game?
Yeah, so obviously, like you said, like at its core, the NFL is a business, right? But on
Yes.
TV, and it's a child's game. Like you could be the most random person in the world, and you could find a connection through football. And I think that's what's so beautiful about it, right?
Right.
And also that's why I think it makes such a good business model. Not only for the NFL, the brand or your club or whoever it is, but
Yeah.
for you as an individual. Because although we do wear, our shoulder pads, our helmets,
Yeah.
and it's hard to like see our face and kind of get to know us for who we
Yeah.
are. We do have these big platforms. We have access to different things where we can, post the things we do. I can post my modeling pictures. I can post all my cooking videos. I can post my youth, work with the youth. And right. So people can actually get an idea of who I am. And in turn, you create a whole different, support base and fan base. And it turns into something, more deeper than superficial when it comes to who I am behind the helmet. And I think that's important, especially for all NFL players and this day and age of sports betting where,
Yeah.
guys get death threats if they drop a pass or you miss a tackle and the team loses the
Oh, you
game.
talking fantasy sports?
Yes, it's just all this mess going on, right? And I think that also helps change that narrative where people realize like, hey, like, first of all, you're gonna get found because the NFL is the biggest business ever. Like people will find you. That's literally an offense and
Yes.
you can get arrested for that. But two, also you're talking to an actual person who has a normal life outside of ball. They have family members that love them, and you're just saying crazy stuff to them. So
Yeah.
I think the reason I take so serious the off the field stuff and trying to show who I am, it's just because like humanizing a football player, which is crazy to say out loud, but
Yeah.
I think it's something that needs to be said.
No, you're right. Plus, no, for you from a fantasy sports perspective, more and more leagues have individual defensive players. So don't be missing those tackles, okay? Because they accumulate points, man. So,
Yes,
but
yes, yes, yes.
in terms of what would you say the importance, as you're getting towards the end of our discussion here, but the importance in terms of maybe for other players, younger players, in terms of planning ahead, right? Because if you look at the average career of a football player, the length is it's not that long. It's a very compressed timeline in terms of making that living, and then you retire at whatever, 30 years old, 31 years old. You have another 30 some years in the workforce. How important do you think it's for, and do you see people do it in terms of planning ahead while they're playing for the time after playing career?
Yeah, right. So that's a great question. And at the end of the day, hopefully I'm going to year three, so hopefully I can play for the next, 15 years. Right. That's the goal. But I had to taste a little like the game being taken away from me this year with that Achilles injury. It was nothing prior. It's something that just kind of happened. I still really don't know why it happened, which is crazy, but it's not my
Yeah.
job to figure out. But also, it's kind of a perspective thing where it's like, all right, well, this is real. Like I've only been playing for 2 years, and I had a career ending, or not career ending, season-ending injury, excuse
Yes.
me, to go through it. It's like, all right, well, who am I? Right. And luckily, I'm a person who prides myself on, doing many different things. And obviously, I take my job very serious and I'm always in that building getting better. But on the flip side of that, I'm also always developing myself outside of ball. I have my investments, I have my different business ops, and
Yeah.
I have all these different things that I do outside of that. So that identity crisis, excuse me, isn't a thing. And if you talk about, we just got out of the month of May and the emphasis on men's mental health, and we lose NFL players every year, and I
Yeah.
think the number's growing, which is terrible. And a lot of people look like, oh, you're a guy, you're at the top of the world, like you're in the NFL. There could be nothing wrong with your life, and like, why would you need help? And it's crazy when you look at the numbers and how they just keep getting bigger. And that's something we pride ourselves in Buffalo on. And that's why I believe it's so important to help help guys cope with things like that and help them work through things when they have things outside of football
Yeah.
instead of, putting everything you got into just football. And I'm not saying I'm not saying you shouldn't do that because obviously you should, it's your job.
Yeah.
But also you leave a little bit of room on the outside for, your extracurriculars, your hobbies. Because at the end of the day, even if you play 10, 15 years, you're still going to retire at around 32 years old, 33 years old.
Yeah. I
That's a
mean,
lot of
just
life left
be
to live.
yeah. It's gotta be strategic while you're playing, right? Setting yourself up for the next level. No, that's good. Is there anything you look back at your career where you're meeting your 16-year-old self, you say, "Hey, do this different." Anything you would do different?
Honestly, man, no. Like I like to live life with no regrets. And I was blessed. I had a great support system around me, had a great upbringing. And I think, my parents set me up the right way. And I kind of followed that lead. And I stuck to the path and I kind of, I knew where I wanted to go at the end of the day. Whether it was, I wanted to be successful, whether it was in the NFL, whether it was long term after Duke. That's why I went to Duke. So that's why I tell the kids nowadays, I'm like, you have to know where you want to go. You don't have to know what you wanna do, but you have to know an idea of where you wanna be, and I think that's so important, that's crucial, because a lot of
Yeah.
kids, especially in, the age of the influencing and the streaming and, the I call it the get rich quick plans, if
Yeah.
you can do it, power to them. 'em. I'm a big social media person, and I respect, how fast people grow their platforms and think that they do, but unfortunately, it's not the reality for everybody, and just like it's not the reality of being a professional athlete in your sport. It's not true for everybody. It's honestly really hard to do.
Yeah, I think people underestimate that in terms of like again, ever being able to step on a football field and play a game. There's very few people that ever accomplish that. So, well, let me ask you the last question: prediction for this year.
Man, I'm not gonna give you a specific prediction, but I will speak on me, my prediction. I predict myself to take it day by day, be where my feet
Yep.
are at,
Yep.
help this team win, man. I'm excited. Like I said, I had a year off. I'm just ready to go, handle my business and, keep clocking, punching that clock every single day.
See, you're more conservative. I talked to a couple of Charger guys, both of them individually, one the linebacker, the other one a safety. They all said Super Bowl. Like, we're gonna play our own stadium, we're gonna win it all. There you go. Yeah.
I'm gonna keep all that in the house, man. But of course, everybody's goal,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, everybody's goal. It sounds great at the beginning of the year, man. So,
Any concerns in terms of winning that division?
like I said, our division, like we won it 5 or 6 years in a row, and then we ended up
Yeah.
losing last year, right? So,
Well, yeah,
obviously, we gotta take it one game at a time, and the chips are gonna
sure.
fall where they may, but definitely, that's the easiest way to get in the playoffs is win your division, so we gotta do it,
Well,
man.
I wish you nothing but the best, successful season for you individually. But no, it's good. I really appreciate the time, Dwayne. I think this was insightful. And again, I appreciate you kind of like going a little deeper in terms of the importance of education, especially for, again, young folks that, are part of the audience and stuff. So I think that's helpful.
100%, man. I appreciate you having me on, man. It was awesome. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you.